Greetings, programs. This is Wretch, and welcome back to Vampire the Masquerade Parliament of Knives. We got a lot of intel and some interesting information about the denizens of Ottawa in the last chapter, and now we're moving on to Chapter 3, Collusion. You rouse early, dreams of Corliss and your embrace lingering for a moment and then fading, as dreams so often do. Your early training as a neonate is something you rarely think about. Agelessness has a way of stretching memory thin, a phenomena you've noted in aging mortals as well, at least to a lesser degree. It occurs to you in those waking moments that you can no longer recall the precise circumstances of your embrace. There was trauma in it, as there always is given the nature of the act, and sometimes you swear you can still feel her fangs pressed against your neck, supple flesh flexing, parting, and the rush of being taken. The seething remnants of your humanity bred a hatred for Corliss at first, forcing you into her world and not only demanding obedience, but perfection. Has your opinion on the matter changed in the years since? Ooh. Her training was harsh, but without it, I'd have met final death years ago. She did what was necessary, and I hold no will over it. My treatment of Corliss's hands was unnecessarily cruel. There's a fine line between strengthening a soul and beating it into submission. She did what she needed to do, and I'm thankful to her every day for the gift of undeath she bestowed upon me. There's a part of me that will never forgive her what she did to me. I disguised my disdain for her out of practical necessity. Well, you also have to think about this. Also being embraced as a Nosferatu, like you're perpetually disfigured and deformed. So I think that there's a part of you that, or a part of our character here that would never forgive her. A part of her. So we'll disguise our disdain for her out of practical necessity. You've somehow managed to mangle your deformed fingers during your sleep again, and takes you several minutes to get them set and sorted. Sometimes you wonder if you'll ever get used to dealing with the Nosferatu curse. When you finally manage to dress and leave your inner chamber, you find Gerard stationed behind a desk nearby, as he always is at nightfall, ready to serve you. It's pleasing to know that even in the midst of all this upheaval, you can still count on someone to be consistent and dependable. "Good evening, sir," he says as you enter the room. There's a slight edge to his voice, and you're uncertain what it signifies. "I obtained a specimen this evening that I believe will make an excellent meal. He is sedated and waiting in the dining room for feeding at your leisure." "He won't be missed if he's away for the night?" you ask, already knowing the answer. Gerard is very particular with how he procures his victims. "Of course not, sir. I am the spirit of discretion. He'll be back in his bed by sunup, though he will take time to recover." "Is there something else I need to know?" I swear I saw something in his eyes just now. Gerard clears his throat uncomfortably. "There's one more thing, I'm afraid. I'm terribly sorry to bother you with this, but a messenger from Sheriff Key arrived just before you awoke to request an audience." You nearly curse, knowing that such an audience should not be refused. The request is merely a formality, and the fact that it came first thing in the night hardly bodes well. "In fact," Gerard continues relentlessly, "the sheriff himself is now waiting in the foyer. I offered him refreshment, of course, but he refused. Politely, I might add, for what it's worth." I'd really rather not deal with this, but I respect Key's tenacity. I've seen him in action too many times to think I can duck out of this meeting. You feel fur brush up against your leg and look down to find Bleck begging for food. An idea occurs to you. and you open up your bond of mental communication with the small rat.
Hungry.
He says, gray fur bristling.
Cheese?
You walk over to your desk on the opposite end of the room from Gerard and dig out a small bag of cheese curds from the top drawer. When Bleck sees it, you can almost hear him salivating.
I need you to do me a favor first,
you say. The mental link responds with waves of disappointment followed by affirmation.
You want me to bite old man?
He says, looking over at Gerard and issuing a sharp war squeak.
He always watches but never feeds me. The time is right for revenge.
You shake your head as Gerard watches the small animal warily. You have little doubt that Bleck has attempted the attack before, without your blessing. I need you to go through your tunnels next to the foyer. Watch the visitors there and report back to me what you see later on.
On it.
Bleck squeaks and turns to run off. You check your appearance over in a tall mirror back in your room, emerging slightly better groomed, even if your budding anxiety remains unsmoothed. Before you attend to the good sheriff, Gerard says, I have some news on the information you requested the other night. Oh? Thank you, Gerard. In all honesty, you'd forgotten about your request after last night's escapades. Of course, sir. I spent a good portion of the previous day on research and a few discreet questions to relevant parties. I believe I may have something of interest to you. You incline your head in acknowledgement. I was able to confirm that the warehouse site you wish me to investigate is owned by a holding company based out of Toronto called Blackstrom. Further digging revealed well-disguised links to Ottawa kindred circles. Unfortunately, I have yet to track down the exact individual in control of the properties. Specific details will take me at least another day if you wish for the investigation to continue. Otherwise, I can be about other tasks for you. I want you to keep investigating the warehouse. Need to know which kindred owns the property. Gerard nods, and you're sure he'd already anticipated your request. Very good, sir. It shouldn't be more than a night, maybe two, for me to get you something useful. Thank you, Gerard. He returns to his desk and sweeps a handful of papers into a dark leather briefcase. I should be about my business so you can get to yours. He almost cracks a smile at your unconscious grimace. Best of luck with the sheriff. The first thing that strikes anyone upon meeting Sheriff Key for the first time is that he's a very tall man. If one were prone to exaggeration, they could say that his head all but scraped the ceiling, and in Key's case, the impression might be accurate, if not the actual truth of the matter. His face has a stately, angular look to it, neither unpleasant to the eye nor what some would call conventionally attractive. In fact, if he didn't possess both his height and commanding presence, he would likely fade into the background of any room he occupied. You have it on good authority that his long dark hair hides a sweeping red scar from his embrace, wrapping sinuously beneath his right ear and down his neck. A vein streak unusual for a Nosferatu encourages him to keep it hidden. Two sharply dressed attachés stand behind him in the entryway. Those kindred first meeting the sheriff might be forgiven for their disbelief regarding Key's clan, considering his distinct lack of many typical disfigurements. In fact, Ottawa's rumor mill is rife with speculation. Some say he turned in a favor owned by a powerful flesh crafter, while others suggest he benefits from powerful blood sorcery. The truth is known only to a select few, and you don't number among them. I appreciate you taking the time to see me, he says, slender fingers twitching at his side unconsciously. You declined to mention that you had little choice in the matter. I intended to seek counsel from your sire tonight, he says, his eyes flickering to Gerard, then back to you. But Corliss's servants have been giving my messengers the runaround since I instructed them to set up the meeting. I understand she's a busy woman, but Arundel would never have... His eyes flick to Gerard again. I'm sorry, but could you send the help away? This conversation isn't for mortal ears. Let's go ahead and play it cool here. I wave Gerard away. No point in antagonizing the sheriff. Gerard fades to the background without a word, silently exiting the room through the rear door. Key arches an eyebrow.
We're alone,
You assure him. Good, good. I have nothing against the man, mind you, but I know how mortal servants gossip during the day. Even those we trust the most are often cursed with a loose tongue when their masters slumber.
You were saying
You prompt him back to the original course of discussion.
about my sire granting you an audience.
Yes, of course. But truthfully, that's of little actual importance. I could force the issue if necessary, but I'm certain she will see me in good time. No, the reason I'm here is to follow up on the events of the past 2 nights. The part you played in them is of particular interest to me. Your skin crawls. It's rarely a good sign when a sheriff feels the need to personally investigate kindred in his prince's own domain. Not servants, not underlings. Personal visit. Punishing anarchs is one thing, but if he suspects foul play on your part...
Of course,
You reply with all the calm you can muster.
anything I can do to help.
Excellent, he says. I'll get right to it then. We confronted Ward during the blood hunt. He went after you first. I'd go so far as to say he picked you out of the group specifically. Then he took the time to throw you free of the building before the explosion. It's been suggested to me that this may have been done on purpose to spare you from the fire. Ooh, this is interesting. Now, how should I play this?
And who's been suggesting such things? I may have been thrown clear, but I came back to help despite the flames.
And that's why this has been a friendly visit despite the rumors. Your assistance was noted, make no mistake. I did some background checking, you understand. Standard procedure, cross-referencing you with the anarchs who recently left the Camarilla. Fortunately, it seems that you and Mr. Ward have very little to no history together. You nod, unsure what he expects you to say. Being overly defensive seems as though it would be unwise, but perhaps silence in and of itself could be seen as conspicuous. Maybe the straightforward truth is the way to go for now.
Ward couldn't have known I'd survive the attack, you say. The construction site was covered in exposed rebar, and any one of them could have impaled me, leaving me stuck in the blast radius. As it was, I lost so much blood I could barely keep myself moving.
It's interesting you should mention that, he interrupts you. The police found a pair of bodies outside the warehouse, torn apart by what looked like an animal. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?
I did what I had to do to survive.
He crosses his arms and gives you a long stare before finally relenting. I recognize that it's been many years since you've been in the field and may be unaccustomed to making quick decisions. If something similar happens again, make sure you do something about the bodies. Luckily, I had the situation tightly locked down and under control. In different circumstances, we could get the wrong people asking questions, and that's not something I want to be dealing with considering everything else on my plate at the moment. Which brings me to the events of last night when Ward attacked me on my own turf. I'm sure you've heard by now that the gangrel prisoner we took during the hunt was freed. Though from what little I was able to squeeze out of him in the short time we had together, it seems like he was more afraid of Ward than he was of me. I need to find the ones responsible for this, Silas. I don't care if the perpetrators are licks or mortals. I'll catch them eventually. You keep your face neutral while acknowledging him with a nod. Is there anything you can remember about those events that might be of any help in my investigation? He holds out a hand to cut you off before you can speak. And don't worry, I'm asking everyone who was present at the station the same question. You might be surprised just how much a seemingly inconsequential observation can assist in the hunt. Panic worms its way up the back of your throat, but you somehow manage to maintain a face of glassy calm. What is he expecting? You need to pick your next words carefully. Should you throw him off the track by suggesting another perpetrator? Hey, Messy. Ooh. I don't seem to recall. I don't want to bring up like armed men in the station who weren't in police clothes, but let's go with this one and see what happens.
The guard at the front desk seemed to be letting people in without checking their ID.
Son of a bitch, Key curses. I told Dan that if I ever saw him doing that again, his ass was out of there. Thank you for bringing it to my attention, Silas. I doubt he's actually behind the attack, but his negligence probably facilitated it. I have to tighten up the ship. You have anything else for me? You shake your head.
That's all I noticed. It was already a long night and I wasn't paying close attention to my surroundings.
Damn. He grunts, grinding his teeth. You're sure? Nothing at all? You shake your head. This'll be a problem. I'm already getting pressure to pull the tapes. The digital footage, I mean. He curses under his breath. Your skin crawls. Hopefully nothing was caught on camera. You were careful, but are you sure that no digital eye captured you doing something you shouldn't have? I'm doing okay, Messy. Just sitting here playing some VTM. Hope everything's going well in your world.
Well, it sounds like you'd rather not show the footage. Have you already reviewed it?
He remains silent for a moment before craning his neck forward and lowering his voice. His eyes darting back and forth to check for any hidden listener. There is no footage, he says. The feeds were jammed. I have an entire tech department falling over themselves to tell me why it shouldn't have been possible. But the facts are the facts. We have nothing. Oh, really? Grats on the new condo, boss. That's awesome.
Do you think it might have been someone from your tech department?
He shakes his head. Everyone on the team was vetted, and my process is stringent. But I've requested phone taps on them just in case. I know a few licks who were big into cellular tech before the digital communications ban, but I don't want to bore you with the details. I was hoping that discussion might knock something loose in your memory that I can use. It's no matter. We can talk about it another time.
Is there anything else I can help you with?
You ask politely. The sheriff looks thoughtful for a moment before shaking his head. I think that covers what we needed to discuss.
If I see your sire before I do, please let her know, politely, that I wish to speak to her. I'm sure that the inability of my mortal agents to agree on a schedule with her own is merely a bureaucratic inefficiency. Sometimes a meeting between kindred should be arranged by kindred themselves.
As Key turns to leave, the door to the outer hall burst open, admitting a frazzled-looking Jordan caught up in a whirlwind of haste. "Hey," she calls out to you, seemingly oblivious to the presence of the sheriff and his attachés. "You've got to come quick. One of my visions came true." Her eyes focus, finally noticing Key, and her mouth shuts with a sharp click of teeth. "Oh," she stammers, swiping a length of red hair out of her face. "Hello, Sheriff." "Oh, is this the Malkavian?" "Yes."
Miss Tremblay, Key says without missing a beat. Jordan. A vision, you say?
Jordan nods, a sheepish expression on her face. "It's a big one. About Vivian Mare." As is the case with most kindred of the Malkavian clan, Jordan is questionably blessed with strange abilities which manifest from individual to individual in different and unpredictable manners. Only days after her embrace, Jordan began experiencing visions of the future. These glimpses of events to come were often incoherent jumbles of blurred images and words, but sometimes the gift provided a clear and unimpeachable truth that will invariably occur in reality. At least that's how she sees it. The truth, only a handful of Jordan's visions have come close to fruition, and even then it could be said that it was more out of coincidence than any true augury. Never heard that word before.
And what about Vivian? He asks. You're in one hell of a hurry.
"I found her wandering the streets downtown," Jordan says, eyes flickering between you and the sheriff. "She had no idea who she was or how she'd gotten there. At first I thought she must be a mortal that looks just like her, but she's the real deal. I drove her back to her place and her butler was completely beside himself. He said she'd run out the door like a wild animal, before he could catch her."
Well, isn't Vivian a primogen? What could do something like that to a powerful vampire?
That's what I'd like to know, he grunts. Assuming this news is true, no offense taken.
Jordan shrugs. "None taken. I'm used to it. And for what did it, I have no idea she was like that when I found her."
And you saw this in your vision?
Jordan nods. "Makes a lot more sense now than it did at the time. I mean, as visions go, it wasn't a terribly exciting one."
A primogen losing her memory didn't seem important,
you reply, bewildered. Her nose wrinkles. "I didn't know that at the time. It just looked like she was wandering aimlessly in the street looking confused. Not all of my visions are exciting, Silas. Half the time they're just people going about their normal, boring lives."
Where did you last see her?
He asks, drumming his fingers along his side anxiously. "Well, I left her back at her house, but I wasn't sure who to go to. I thought you might have some idea who to talk with." She looks at Key again. "Situations like this can be fragile."
Damn right they could be fragile. The sheriff grumbles as he waves his attachés to his side. Looks like we're going to pay a visit to the Mayer household.
Shift nervously. "Vivian's butler will doubtless inform Key about your visit the other night. While your assignment was coincidental, you're concerned as being seen as an accessory. Last you saw of her, the Ventru primogen strolled out of her front door ahead of you without a care in the world." I think we should tell him about the meeting, but not the details. He'll understand that neither Vivian nor Corliss would want me telling everything. Gotta keep some stuff close to the vest, you know? You quickly explain the basics of your meeting with Vivian to Key, leaving out the major details.
You can't tell me why you were there?
Key asks skeptically. You shake your head.
You know Corliss. She'd be less than pleased if I told everyone the details of the mission she sends me on. She might be willing to tell you in person, though, but that decision's not up to me.
That's understandable, he says. I'm glad you at least told me that you were there. I would have found out either way, and it's better that I learn about it now. His eyes wander over to Jordan. I should get over to the Mare estate and talk to her. Sort this all out. Yeah, thank you very much for that resub. 28 months in a row, 35 in total. Thank you for supporting the channel and supporting the Children's Hospital. Very much so. Hey, Dama. I'm not just gonna do a best of luck thing. Let's see, let's press our luck here. Well, maybe Jordan can go with Key while I inform Corliss. What do you guys think? Should we see if Jordan can go with Key while we inform the sire, or should we just ask the sheriff if we can tag along? I'm kind of more imposed to do that than anything else. Just to kind of see what's going on. But I also don't want to get my face too... You know what? Either he says no, or maybe your presence triggers some memory for her. Yeah, let's go ahead for it.
I should come with you. Vivian was one of the last kindred to see Arundel before his disappearance, and Corliss would want me to investigate that.
He thumbs his chin thoughtfully. Well, I was going to suggest that you carry the news to your sire, but you might as well come along and get a look at the situation firsthand. At least then Eden will be kept up to date, since she seems intent on blocking me out. He gestures at Jordan. You're coming with us. Oh, okay, Jordan says, eyeing you. Do you mind, Silas?
Well, you were the one who found her, you say. It makes sense for you to come along.
One of Key's attachés grunts something under his breath, and the sheriff nods. And we can't have you running off to anyone else to spread the news. This needs to be handled carefully. I wasn't going to tell anyone else, Jordan protests. Unless Silas suggested it anyway. She glances at you. A sudden pang of hunger stops you in your tracks as you're walking through the door. The past few days have been unusually trying. Before you do anything else, you need to feed. I know that look, he says. You have someone waiting for you. You nod. Good. I'll meet you out front when you're done. He waves Jordan forward. After you. Your dining room is nothing extravagant. A wooden table carved with a few artistic embellishments, along with high-backed chairs sufficient to seat a small group of guests, should you wish to have company. The lighting is soft, and the table's polished surface gleams softly under its attention. It smells appetizing. Microscopic remnants of past feedings excite your sensibilities. A forensic team would have a field day with this place. Fortunately for you, Key has influence over all such departments in Ottawa and the surrounding suburbs. Bleck nibbles and pulls on your pant leg.
Returned,
he says.
Sheriff was angry before he came inside. didn't want to wait. Others just stood there and listened. Good servants to their alpha. Like me, he squeaks. All I saw.
Not for the first time, you find yourself wishing that Bleck could be trained to understand spoken words. You can communicate through the bond almost normally, but he still can't comprehend the words of others any more than a normal rat can. You hand out another small piece of cheese, and he takes it before skittering away. There's an ache in your veins that you haven't experienced in quite some time. You've recovered from physical trauma with your mending abilities since your last feeding, and your hunger has grown noticeably. Long nights in the comfort of the Camarilla's protection have left you unaccustomed to going hungry for even a short period of time. You need to toughen up if events keep spiraling out of control. You find your prey leaning back in one of the seats, his eyes foggy and glazed as he stares up at the modern lighting fixtures. He's been sedated, as Gerard mentioned earlier, though not enough that drinking from him will leave you unable to function. As your manservant, Gerard quickly learned the perfect chemical cocktail to leave your prey pliable without any unfortunate side effects. You remember the one time you fed on a homeless wino as a neonate. It wasn't the same as being drunk while you'd lived, but the blood was disorienting enough to make you nauseated. Not exactly a nourishing meal. You here to take me home? The man slurs, blinking at you with vacant cow eyes. Your mind flashes back to the two mortals you killed during the blood hunt. They hadn't been sedated, they were terrified of you. You were a monster to them. This man barely knows where he is, and he's all the better off for it. Isn't he? I say nothing. He is food for the taking. You lean over him, your lips curled back, nose flared like a predatory animal. You're barely aware of the room as you sink your fangs into his stubble-specked neck and drink deep. The moment feels so profoundly right that his surprised groan only encourages you to slake your thirst. There is nothing that can compare to fresh blood straight from the vein. And a pacified partner quiets the voices in your head. You're not a predator, you convince yourself. No, you're a gift to these mortals, these supplicants. Forget the victims you slaughtered. All is forgiven in this holy act of feeding. You pull back and lick the neck wounds closed. Your victim's eyes have glazed over and he's panting heavily. You wonder what his name is. Doesn't matter. You suck the length of your fangs and your lips clean of blood. A small part of you knows that it should matter, that you should remember the faces of your victims. But maybe it's too late for that. Maybe your humanity is gone forever. Sheriff Key's silver sedan is surprisingly unassuming. You expected a luxury vehicle, or at least something that isn't slowly being eaten away by the creep of rust. Money is power. And old money made over several mortal lifetimes affords the eldest of the ivory tower the finest luxuries available. As you and Jordan follow on Key's hills, you keep expecting him to veer off to another floor of the garage. But when he pulls his keys out of his pocket and presses a button, the car's lights flash. He waves you into the front seat, Jordan to the back. She shoots you a confused look. Seems like you're not the only one accustomed to an upscale lifestyle in your own life. I saw that look, he says as he settles into the driver's seat. Don't think I haven't seen it before. You don't like her, do you? Her? Jordan asks, generally befuddled. My old girl here. He pats the dashboard. She's reliable and she doesn't draw attention. What good is a flashy car to a sewer rat?
Well, it makes sense to me. If it gets you where you need to be without attracting attention, that's all you really need. See, I knew you'd get it if I explained. Sometimes it feels like I'm speaking another language when I say the same thing to the primogen.
He adjusts the rearview mirror and backs out of the parking spot before lowering the driver's side window to speak with his attachés. Report back to the precinct and gather some backup just in case. We don't know exactly what we're dealing with.
You know how you said this car doesn't stand out?
Jordan says uncomfortably.
Don't you think the opposite will be true in Rockcliffe Park?
Key grunts as he shifts the car into gear. Like no poor middle-class schlubs drive through the rich neighborhoods dreaming of their big break. You want to get into a police cruiser to drive over? I'm not looking to cause a commotion. For all we know, Miss Mare has already recovered and she'll send that odious butler to clear us off her lawn. Jordan shrugs and you turn your attention to the window, watching the city pass by through the ghost of your reflection. Vivian's estate looks just as it did when you visited the previous night. The grass looks freshly cut and the home's light brown brick walls flash bright with motion-activated lights as Key drives through the wide semicircular driveway. You step out of the car and close the door with an echoing clunk. It's so quiet out here. You didn't notice until the engine was turned off. The sheriff sniffs the air. Something feels off, he says, right hand twitching above his concealed gun holster. You two wait here for a moment. I want to circle around from the back before we announce ourselves at the door. He doesn't wait for either of you to respond before he disappears, becoming one with the shadows as he slips away. Jordan pulls you back to the car, far enough from the front door to keep from being overheard by a sharp pair of ears. You try to track any disturbances that could indicate Key's passing. A shrubbery rustles around the right side wall of the estate and is quickly stilled.
He's gone, you say. I had no idea the sheriff was going to be at your place, Jordan whispers. This caused a lot of trouble. I should have kept my mouth shut, but I was so excited.
You don't doubt it. There's no shortage of skeptics when it comes to Jordan's vision, and she views every successful augury as vindication in the face of the doubters.
Just be careful and I think you'll be fine, you say.
He already has his hands full dealing with the Anarch, so he's less likely to be too concerned about you when he's already stretched so thin.
It's just, I was thinking this could be it, she says with a grin. The moment we've been waiting for. Do you think?
Several years ago, Jordan has a vision that she would be instrumental in helping you with a very mysterious project of great importance, and she stuck close to you since at every opportunity. When you were a young neonate, she helped you navigate dangerous social and political waters once you left Corliss's nest, and you have reason to believe her intervention saved you from a possibly fatal faux pas on more than one occasion, although Jordan never made a point of it or asked for a quid pro quo. It's either the first one or the second one. Jordan's companionship means a great deal to me. I may have met final death without her looking out for me. I find Jordan's presence grating, but not enough to shoo her away. She can be useful to me from time to time. I feel that I could go the generic, everyone's a tool and rock out the second one. But I figure if my character resents my sire for the harsh way he was taught, he would probably think the other way toward Jordan's companionship and helping him out of situations without basically using the closed fist. So I think Jordan may actually be a decent friend, and maybe one of his only ones. What do you guys think? Because we chose that he resented how he was brought up. Or at least a part of him, at least. I think we should go with that. Jordan's companionship means a great deal to me. I may have met final death without her looking out. Yeah.
You may be right, you say. So much is happening all at once. If there were ever a time for your vision to come to pass, it would be now.
Jordan grins and flashes her fangs.
I knew you'd see it too. We're in this together, just like the old times. It's exciting.
You keep your eyes trained on the last spot you placed Key. The shrubs are quiet now, and everything is quiet but the two of you.
Oh, we should get inside and talk to Vivian,
Jordan says.
She's probably recovered since I found her. What is Key even doing?
He's being cautious, you say. Don't you feel that?
Feel what?
Something feels wrong.
Something changes about Jordan's face. A slight twitch that you've learned to recognize as her utilizing her gifts of heightened senses.
You're right,
she whispers.
It's unnaturally quiet here.
She looks up toward the front door and stares for a moment.
The door was forced. I can see it clear as day. Hinges broken and everything.
She looks back at you and you can see her dilated pupils return to normal.
What should we do? Should we go inside?
He told us to wait here for him to get back, so that's what we'll do. We shouldn't split our forces if we can avoid it.
You huddle beside Key's tired old sedan as a cool wind blows down the street. Somehow, not even the leaves rustle to pierce the quiet. You can see Jordan growing. Oh, okay, I just realized I know who it is. Everything that we heard right there is textbook quietus, which is an Asimite trait. I forgot what it's called now. Is it just blood magic? I'm not exactly sure. I think it may have been put into blood magic now, but the ability to have things unnaturally quiet is an Asimite trait, which means that it would go to our Banu Hakim associate. So this could be fairly interesting. Okay. You can feel Jordan growing increasingly restless beside you as each individual second passes with glacial slowness. When the sheriff materializes in front of you, you almost cry out from the anticipation. You followed orders. Good. I was worried I was going to have to follow you inside.
Oh, we waited here like you asked,
Jordan says.
But I'm getting worried. I'm pretty sure there was a break-in here.
Key nods. Very likely. Body on the back porch and something blocking the rear entrance. Bookcase or heavy shelf pushed in front of the door. I'm not in the habit of asking for help, but 3 sets of eyes are better than 1. I've already radioed for backup, but we should move now. I have a bad feeling about this. You slowly open the grand front door to Vivian's estate, taking note of its damaged hinges and using as little force as possible to make your way through the opening and into the front foyer. The main room is dominated by a massive Victorian-era portrait of Miss Mare. It would be safe to guess that she went by another name that long ago. The clothes are different, but the face is unmistakable as it looks down on you disapprovingly. The air is cold and distinctive smell of death beckons you to a small alcove to the right where you find the body of Vivian's butler propped up on a stool. His eyes have rolled back and a trickle of blood and drool dangles from the edges of his mouth.
This gives me the creeps,
Jordan whispers as she checks the body for any signs of a vampire assault.
Still warm, but I don't think anyone drank from him. Whoever did it could still be mortal, but I have my doubts. As I know, they must have a serious death wish.
Well, they'll be dead within the night, he mutters. Unlucky for them that you ran into me at Silas's haven. I'll have less time to slip the net now.
We'll find them,
you whisper. Anarchs gathering by the Ottawa River is one thing, but an assault on a primogen is another thing entirely.
This has to be answered for, or the whole city will be in chaos.
Jordan is already moving toward a graceful set of stairs in the back leading up to the second floor. You and Key move to keep up.
I can sense something up there. I smell more blood. There's a dripping sound.
Key's lips pull back in a silent snarl before he disappears into the shadows. Be careful when you move on. The empty air whispers with the sheriff's voice. Anything could be up here. How's our hunger? Are we good? We are satisfied? I mean, that's what we kind of decided that we were going to do, is that we had a specialty in stealth, so let's go ahead and use obfuscate as well. We'll disappear from sight along with Key and check the second floor first. You exchange a knowing look with Jordan, and the two of you shroud yourselves, climbing the remaining stairs in silence, concealed so completely that only a pack-like stalking instinct informs you of each other's presence, because Malkavians have obfuscate as well. A door just past the landing has been left ajar, and as you watch, it creeps an inch or two wider to admit the sheriff. You remind yourself that the group should stick together so you don't lose track of each other. You step carefully, avoiding any missteps that could give away your position to a lurking enemy. The heavy wooden door is comprised of six interlocking panels, each outlined by intricately carved scrollwork. The room beyond is likely exquisitely purposeful in its design, marred only by the notable exception of Vivian Mare's crucified body suspended on the opposing wall, chest transfixed by a thick wooden stake. The primogen's wrists are wrapped in layers of metal wire holding her aloft with the symmetric perfection of a well-loved painting. A single man in servant's attire kneels before her, his back to you as he seeks absolution. From God or his mistress, you cannot say. You circle around the room, positioning yourself between the servant and the only other escape route, a window as tall as you are, its twin panes thrown wide open and filling the room with a chill night breeze. As you advance, the man unclasps his shivering hands and moves them toward his belt, knuckles white as he pulls a knife and holds the hilt under his chin, its tip inches away from his chest. This may be the only witness left alive who can tell you what happened here. You run forward and grab his wrist with supernatural strength. The blade clatters to the floor and the servant looks up at you, his bloodshot eyes brimming with sadness. He looks so old. Too old to feel horror anymore. Or perhaps that's the result of long years in the service of an older vampire. He runs a hand over his balding plate, oblivious to the small wisps of white hair falling loose and drifting lazily to the floor.
You can't stop this, he stammers. I'm already dead. Don't worry, we'll keep you safe. What did you see? There's no safety for me now. There's only atonement.
The servant moans as his body is racked with spasms. He doubles over and coughs. When he sits upright again, the floor below is speckled crimson. A bestial part of you roils with hunger. You push instinct away as you notice Key once again visible in the shadows beside you. He stays silent, but his eyes flicker and shift around the room with the unnerving calm of a man slowly piecing together a puzzle.
You're dying,
Jordan says, suddenly visible in front of the servant.
We're going to keep you alive. Just tell us what they did to you so we can help.
You know what I think's happening is if he's getting older and older, it may be because he doesn't have any he may be a ghoul and he doesn't have any blood to any of the kindred blood in him, so he's starting to age rapidly. We have to keep him alive or we'll never know what happened. I feed the old man some of my blood. Now, keep in mind, some of this knowledge, could just, juice them up. May come back and bite me, but we're going to do this.
What do you think you're doing?
He asks as you slash your wrist and bring it to the old man's mouth.
Curing him so he can get answers.
You say as you try to force the dying man to swallow your vitae. Servant tries to force your wrist away and struggles to speak.
We cannot undo what has been done in her name. I'm dying. There's no helping it now.
A white froth comes to his lips and he hacks and coughs before he's able to speak again.
We took the poison,
he slurs.
like we were told. Will she smile on us in heaven?
His breath stops and he shudders as death takes him.
We were too late,
Jordan mutters dejectedly.
but we should be able to help Vivian, right?
Key steps over the old man's cooling corpse and examines the macabre display.
Well, the stake would only paralyze her. The rest is for show. Pageantry.
He gestures toward the door and removes a compact camera from his pocket.
Step back. I need to document this. The Primogen Council will require answers.
He gets to his knees in front of the servant's body and looks him over.
At least we were quick enough to hear him speak. It's not much, but it's something.
Over the next 15 minutes, the sheriff photographs the crime scene from every angle while you and Jordan check from room to room, searching for additional evidence. You find 4 more bodies in servants' clothes, each of them collapsed to the floor with a residue of white foam on their lips. Poison. You can feel Jordan grow increasingly uncomfortable as you go on.
Why would the killer poison them? She asks. When they could have just killed them like the butler downstairs.
I stay silent. I think it may be either this one or the servants must have been in on it. It takes a certain kind of fanatic to string someone up like that and then kill themselves to keep the secret. But right now we'll stay silent. I'm not sure what to think yet, and I'm not given to idle speculation. Jordan looks at you, waiting to hear your input.
Nothing?
She asks. You shake your head.
I don't know what to think yet. We'll see what Key turns up. Silas, Jordan.
Key's voice echoes down the stairs, reverberating off cold stone.
I need you to help get Vivian down and remove the stake.
The two of you race up the stairs to join the sheriff. He's moved the servant's body, clearing space in front of the crucified primogen.
Take her right arm.
He gestures to Vivian's side and you take position.
Jordan, I need you to hold her by the hips and help lower her once we unwrap the wire.
Hey, Robo. It isn't until you begin unwrapping the wire loops wrapped around Vivian's wrist that you notice the thorny barbs peppered at regular intervals, digging into her dead flesh. You wince as you unravel the bonds. Each thorn sticks in the skin, tearing small patches off as you go. A distressed grunt from the sheriff suggests that her other side has received much the same treatment. When Vivian's wrists are finally freed, the three of you lower her to the floor and lay her on her back, arms flat at her side. A part of you left over from before the embrace finds it almost impossible to believe this mangled corpse has yet to meet final death, but Corliss's training has taught you better. A stake through the heart does not destroy a vampire. It merely leaves them paralyzed. And sometimes if enough vitae has been lost, they enter torpor, a suspended state of unconsciousness from which it is next to impossible to wake oneself, unless you have outside help. You jump to your feet as the front door bangs open, but Key counsels you to calm.
I called my ghouls while you were searching for the rest of the house, he says. Miss Mare will need to feed when we bring her back.
2 plainclothes detectives enter the room, and one of them looks sick when he sees what's been done to Vivian. You imagine that Key briefed them on what to expect, but sometimes foreknowledge isn't an ironclad remedy for a weak stomach.
She'll kill me,
Pale officer says.
I've seen it happen. She won't be able to stop herself.
I'll make sure you aren't drained, Key says. You'll live to serve another day, Officer Dova, and you'll be provided with a substantial cash bonus for services rendered. The man shivers as he unbuttons the top of his shirt and kneels down by Vivian's body.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, let's get this over with, eh?
Remove the stake. Oh, that's ominous. Vivian Mare's eyes burst open and her mouth twists in a silent scream. The stake is almost completely removed from her mangled body, and the pointed tip pulls free of her chest with a disturbingly wet sucking sound. Her shoulders and back arch, and she shivers with spasms as her unlife comes rushing back into her. You almost expect her chest to heave with renewed breathing, but of course such concerns are beneath an elder of the blood. Vivian, he calls to her gently. You notice he's moved away from her and follow his example accordingly. A vampire brought back from a staking this violent is unpredictable at the very least. It's Key, Vivian. We removed the stake. You have some kind to feed from, but you must make sure not to... The newly awoken primogen lurches forward with terrifying swiftness and grabs the closest mortal by the neck, sinking her fangs into his flesh and slurping greedily. Almost half a minute into the feeding, you look over at Key questioningly. The sheriff nods and creeps forward to separate the two before she can drain the mortal dry. There are 2 vessels here, Key says. This mortal has served me well and I won't have him drained. Move on to the next. Vivian growls like a feral animal and latches onto the man with talon-like fingers. Her skin is mending before your eyes as she drains the life from the officer. Silas, Jordan, I may need your help to occupy her while I free Officer Dova.
Ooh.
Man, we are going to be so hungry. I use my gifts to increase my strength and hold Vivian back while Key rescues his mortal. I can't hold a primogen long, but even a second could turn the tide. You move quietly behind Vivian, channeling dark gifts to increase your toughness to supernatural levels. On Key's signal, you wrap your arms around the primogen and pull her away from her victim as Key darts in to secure the officer and replace him with a second vessel. Even with the advantage of surprise on a recently roused foe, you're simply no match for the primogen's strength of will. Vivian hurls you away within seconds, slamming you back against the wall with enough concussive force to embed over a foot of discarded barbed wire deep into your leg. Gritting your teeth, you strip it loose and focus on mending the damage as Vivian takes her fill from the second mortal.
Are you okay?
Jordan rushes over to you and checks your leg.
Doesn't look that bad. I was worried you'd get a lot worse getting in the way of something that powerful.
Let's see.
I wanted to get in Key's good books. He already seemed suspicious of me, so it seemed like a good idea for him to owe me a favor.
Well, I'm just glad you didn't get yourself destroyed in the process,
Jordan says. It almost feels like a scolding, but there's a warmth of genuine concern there. He was afraid you'd meet final death, and truth be told, you could have. Jordan shakes her head. What am I worrying about anyway? We have unfinished business still, you and I. Silas, Jordan, he barks. Get over here. Both of you return to the sheriff's side as Vivian pushes away her meal. The mortal has gone white from lack of blood, but he's still breathing. Barely. Vivian blinks absently, her eyes unfocused, chin, face, and hair matted with blood from the frenzied feeding. She doesn't say a word, just stares at the 3 of you as the 2 mortals struggle to keep themselves conscious, choking in deep, ragged breaths. Key gets on his knees and looks into the primogen's eyes. Vivian, you're in your home. You're back with me. Do you remember what happened? We'll find who did this to you and punish them, but we need a name. A description. Anything.
Who?
Vivian croaks.
Who are you?
The sheriff's Adam apple bobs nervously as he shallows a confused response. Sheriff Key, ma'am. You know me well.
You are familiar?
She drones. It sounds like she's just remembering how to speak after years spent mute.
What are you doing in my home?
You were attacked, Vivian. Do you remember who did this to you? She looks down at her arms. The wounds are mostly mended with a few errant flaps of bloody skin still pulling themselves together. She growls in frustration.
Why are you calling me Vivian?
Jordan gives you a puzzled look but remains silent, not daring to interrupt. Because it's your name, Key says, true concern finally showing on his face. Are you all right? This may be more serious than a staking. Something's been done to your mind. Vivian pauses and you almost see her trying to think as her eyes dart this way and that. Finally, she closes them.
I see a face when I close my eyes. Hear a name. At first I thought it was who I am, but now I'm not so sure.
Who? Key asks, almost desperate at this point. It may have been the last face you saw as they did this to you. Vivian opens her eyes.
My name isn't Eden Corliss.
Oh, Lord. Our sire is suddenly neck deep in it. So that's unfortunate because all of the good faith that that's true, I could be in line for a promotion, but hopefully all the good faith that we just did with Key to kind of get us out of a suspicion for the whole explosion at the holding facility may have just gone flushing down the toilet. However, if Eden decides, or if they decide to get rid of Eden, this could be a very, very good opportunity for us to get promoted to the primogen. So, let's look on the bright side a little bit. That was a fun chapter, and I like the fact that I like how these characters are written because I remember the primogen. The problem is that you have sometimes in VTM that you have character stereotypes that you see in a lot of different campaigns where the sheriff is one type of character, and no matter where you play, or if you play with different storytellers, the sheriff can always be like that same kind of personality. And I like the fact that although I've given them similar voices, the Key here and the sheriff from the A Vampire the Masquerade, Shadows of New York, I forgot his name off the top of my head, is like Hakeem or something, is I like the fact that Key has a very different personality. It's kind of, he actually can show weakness and frustration. So like I said, I'm really liking how this is written. I think Jeffrey Dean has done a great job so far, and I'm looking forward to jumping into chapter 4, Council, which, you know, who knows, we may be in the primogen sooner rather than later, guys. But we will go ahead and end it here and pick this up in the next stream. And I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you haven't followed the Twitch channel, please do so. I try and stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays with random times in between. And if you're watching the replay of this on YouTube, I have a link to the Twitch channel in the description below, a link to Vampire the Masquerade Parliament of Knives, the Steam page link down below, as well as a link to my Extra Life donation page where I'm raising money for my local children's hospital via the Extra Life charity. So check out those links if you feel so inclined. Like, share, subscribe. You guys know the drill there. And we will see you next time. Later days, everyone.